This is the new Audi A5 Saloon, and it's one car that effectively has to replace three. But why is that, and is this any good? In this review, we're finding out. Now first, let's clear up some confusion about the name. This new A5 Saloon is effectively a replacement for the A4 Saloon, as well as the previous A5 Coupe and A5 Sportback. And when this was first revealed, it was part of a big shake-up to Audi's model lineup. And the idea was that this new naming structure meant that odd-numbered cars, like the A5, would have an engine, but even-numbered cars, like the new Audi A6, would be fully electric. However, that idea didn't go down very well, with customers and dealers explaining that it caused a fair bit of confusion. And so, Audi has since backtracked on that strategy. And that means that the new Audi A6 Petrol was supposed to be called the A7, but instead it will remain the A6. This change of heart, though, has come too late for the new Audi A5. The German manufacturer isn't going to suddenly rebrand this as the Audi A4 because it's already on sale. And to confuse matters further, perhaps, in 2028 it is expected that there will be a fully electric A4 e-tron. Anyway, what you need to know is that the new A5 is effectively the new A4. And stretching just over 4.8 metres long, this is slightly longer than the car that it replaces. It's also taller and wider. In terms of rivals, this will be up against the BMW 3 Series and Mercedes C-Class, of course, as well as some mainstream alternatives like the Skoda Superb and VW Passat. There is also an Audi A5 Avant, which is an estate version of this car. And we should also point out that even though this is the A5 Saloon, it's actually a hatchback. But we'll talk more about the boot later. First, let's take a look at this interior. And it is very easy to get a comfortable driving position in the A5. There's lots of adjustment in the wheel and in the seat. Everything lines up nicely as well. But if you want electric adjustment in your seat, then you'll need to go for relatively high-spec Black Edition or above. Otherwise, for most of the functions of the seat, you have to make do with manual adjustment. But what every version of the A5 gets is this digital driver display and touchscreen infotainment setup that you can see here. So it gives you these two screens that are joined together in this big single curve here. And the graphics are really nice. So for the driver display, it means that everything's easy to see, it looks crisp, and you've got a good level of configurability as well to choose exactly what you have in front of you. Although these buttons on the wheel are a bit fiddly and don't feel particularly expensive either, because some of them are touch sensitive, but that means you can accidentally be triggering them, and they're all on this kind of wobbly bit of plastic that just isn't as nice as having separate, clearly defined buttons for each function. Anyway, onto this infotainment system that you can see here, and it's got loads of features, all the ones that you'd hope for it to have, but there is a distinct lack of physical controls to help operate the functions on it. You do have a voice command system, which is reasonably effective for some controls, but for the most part, you're going to find yourself poking and prodding at this screen. Now, what's good is you've got this ledge down here that you can kind of rest your hand on as you poke at the screen, but it's a big screen, some of the icons are a bit small, and particularly these shortcut buttons here can be actually a bit fiddly to get to because they're small in the first place and they're kind of behind the steering wheel, so you can't really see them that clearly necessarily. And it would just be better if you had separate physical controls to operate more of the functions of this infotainment system, like you used to have on older Audis. And indeed a BMW 3 Series, of course, still for now has a rotary dial on the center console to make operating its touchscreen infotainment system far simpler and easier and safer to do while you're driving than what you get in the A5. And unfortunately on this Audi you do have all the climate controls on the touchscreen down here. Now the good thing is that they're permanently visible, but of course, poking and prodding at this touchscreen down there isn't as easy to do as having separate physical dials to operate those fairly important features on the car. If you go for a range-topping Vorsprung model, then you get a third screen on the interior, and it sits over here for the front passenger to be able to control certain functions and have a view of some different driving information as well. Now, this interior looks the part with this sleek and modern design, but you can notice some signs of cost cutting here and there. Not all of the materials feel really premium like they used to with Audi. So for example, this silver trim around the air vents just doesn't feel particularly nice, and you can see Audi's been potentially inspired by Dacia here by putting just a bit of fabric over some very hard plastic on the interior. And yes, the gloss black might look nice in a showroom, but once you've actually lived with this car and got your fingerprints all over it and made it look really smudgy, then it's quite easy to make it look quite a bit less special than it did when you first got into the car. So it is the case overall that a BMW 3 Series just feels more solid and more premium throughout its interior than what you get in this new A5. And isn't it a shame that here's another new Audi that just doesn't reach the heights that this brand used to with the interiors that it produced. But storage is pretty good up front. So you've got this cubby on the center console here. You've got 2 cup holders and you've got a well-placed armrest and a decent sized cubby underneath it. And the door bins are a decent size as well, although access is a bit tricky to it because you've got this big armrest just above it. Now, the rear seats. Executive cars like this aren't blessed normally with massive amount of space in the back for your passengers. And so the old A4 was pretty tight in these rear seats, just like a 3 Series is. This new A5 is better than the model that this replaces. Not by a huge amount though, but it's most noticeable with knee and legroom, where you do have a bit more than before. And I'm 177 centimeters tall, about 5'10", sat behind my driving position, and I can sit back here fairly comfortably. But the only problem really is headroom back here, because if I sit up straight, I am just about avoiding touching the roof lining, but if you were a 6-footer, then your head would be pressed up against the top here, as it would be in some other rivals, but things like a VW Passat and the Skoda Superb are far better and more generous when it comes to rear seat space. So if that is a priority for you, you're probably looking in the wrong class of car. Foot space is very tight if the front seat is as low as it will go. If you really like what this A5 has to offer, but you are desperate for a bit more space in the back, then the A5 Avant is better when it comes to headroom. Legroom is the same, but you do have more space above you if you're a tall person sat in the back. Elsewhere here, you've got some door bins. You do have a big central transmission tunnel here, which is a problem if you're going to be sat in this middle seat. And you've also got an armrest you can pull down with 2 cup holders. So overall, not the most luxurious and relaxing space to sit in if you're a tall adult, but this is reasonably good compared to the premium rivals that this is up against. Now, the boot. In terms of overall capacity, you have 445 litres available to you below the parcel shelf. But if you go for a 4-wheel drive model, that drops to 417 litres. And if you have a plug-in hybrid, like this car that we have on this test, then it drops again to just 331 litres. Now, compared to a 3 Series and a C-Class, that isn't particularly great. But if the sheer numbers aren't that impressive with the A5, there is more to it than that, because the fact that it is a hatchback means that it's easier to access things in the boot here than it is in a 3 Series or a C-Class. And you can see you've got a really long, wide load bay here, and you've got 40-20-40 split folding rear seats. Now, some other rivals do offer that, but it's still very good to see that on this car. The only thing is that you haven't got handy levers to drop them down like you would have in the estate version. Instead, you've got to go around to the side and throw them down from the rear seats. Speaking of the estate, the Audi A5 Avant does have a bigger boot, but if you're expecting it to be massively bigger than what's on offer here, then you might be a bit surprised, because the official capacity is just 476 litres, which isn't a huge step up from what's on offer here. But that is below the parcel shelf, of course. The main benefit and the main difference with that car is the extra space that you have above the parcel shelf and at the rear of the car. When it comes to the engines, the A5 has a pretty broad range of choice to hopefully appeal to a number of different buyers. Things start with the 148 brake horsepower TFSI 150, which is a 2-litre petrol, and there's also a more powerful version of that, the TFSI 204. If you're after a diesel, there's a TDI 204, and this is an A5 e-hybrid, which is the plug-in hybrid version of this car. And this is pretty quick. It covers 0 to 62 miles an hour in 5.9 seconds, and thanks to its 20.7 kilowatt hour battery, it gets an official pure electric range of almost 70 miles. Now, of course, as with all plug-in hybrids, the actual number of miles you'll be able to travel in real-world driving conditions will be a fair bit less than that, but it's still an impressive number and looks pretty good compared to the rivals that it's up against as well. Then there is the performance-focused version of this car, which is the S5, and that's a different beast altogether compared to the other types of A5s that you can get. It gets a 362 brake horsepower V6 petrol engine under the bonnet. all the engine options are strong, to be honest. This plug-in hybrid that we're driving here though, it's more expensive than the regular petrol and diesel options, as is normal. And so, again, as we would normally say, it's more money, and yes, there might be some fuel economy benefits in certain scenarios, but it's going to be hard to recoup the money that you've had to spend outright in the beginning to have this. So it makes more sense to stick with the regular petrol and diesel versions of the A5. And in terms of what gives you the best bang for your buck, it's the TFSI 204 petrol, which we think is the pick of the line. And in terms of other areas on the road, the A5 comes with 3 different suspension setups. Entry-level sport trim comes with comfort suspension. S-Line gets a lowered and firmer sports suspension setup. And then you get adaptive dampers with Vorsprung. Now, we haven't driven the entry-level car, but in S-Line models, the ride is pretty good, to be honest. You can get the occasional thump over road imperfections, but it's fairly settled, it's good on the motorway. The adaptive dampers, though, do give this a more plush feeling ride, and it has a nice waft to it, especially on the motorway. But then it is a lot of money to have an A5 with that suspension setup. And in terms of the handling, this is competent. The steering is light, but it's accurate. There's plenty of grip on offer. It doesn't involve you in the driving experience as much as a BMW 3 Series, which feels sharper and more agile, but this is still composed and easy to drive. It's also quiet inside. There's not much road noise or wind noise, and actually all of the engines are pretty hushed as well. So it's not outstanding in one single area on the road, but as an all-rounder, this A5 is pretty good. The pricing is there or thereabouts compared to the rivals that this is up against. It's not a cheap car, but then neither are the premium alternatives that this will be compared to. And you do get quite a lot of standard equipment with the A5. There are 4 trims in total: Sport, S-Line, Black Edition and Vorsprung, while the performance-orientated S5 Saloon comes in its own bespoke specification. Sport comes with 18-inch alloys, heated front seats, adaptive cruise control, 3-zone climate control, wireless phone charging and leather upholstery. It's our pick of the lineup. S-Line adds 19-inch alloys, rear privacy glass and a sportier exterior styling. Black Edition gets a black styling pack and heated rear seats, while Vorsprung gets the adaptive suspension we mentioned earlier, matrix LED headlights and a front passenger display. But at this level, as you'd expect, the price is pretty punchy. Reliability is fairly difficult to predict for a car as new as the A5, but what we do know is that in the 2025 What Car Reliability Survey, the German manufacturer finished a fairly disappointing 22nd out of 31 manufacturers. In terms of the standard warranty, you get 3 years or 60,000 miles, which isn't amazingly generous. It does though match what Mercedes offers, but BMW goes a little bit further by giving you unlimited mileage for the same number of years. Audi can extend the warranty for up to 5 years and 90,000 miles if you're willing to pay, and it might be worth considering that. While we can't be sure how reliable the A5 will be, we do know that it is a safe car. When it was tested by crash safety experts Euro NCAP, it received the full 5-star verdict. So, like the A4 that it replaces, the new A5 remains a comfortable and well-rounded executive cruiser with a good selection of engines on offer. The interior, though, no longer leads the class, and there are more engaging options on the road. But still, this is a strong choice. Thanks very much for watching this review. If you want to see another one, click at the top of the screen there and make sure you subscribe to our channel while you're at it. And if you want to read more about the Audi A5 and every other new and used car around, click on that link to go to whatcar.com.